We can hear the dynamics of having introduced this lovely Bantam pair into our small flock. I've had to get rid of the brother of this one, as he was super aggressive and was picking on his brothers and sisters anyway. This cockerel is very subservient, was almost killed by his brother when they were young, never crowed, and seems to be slightly better nature, so I'm giving him a chance at the moment to see how he gets on with the increasing group size. The elderly Bantam cockerel is super strong, very defensive of his mate. I guess they've been together a long time, I don't know. I got them, sort of rehomed them from a pet shop where they'd been in a very, very small cage. So they were a day and a half separated, but looking at each other through wire, and then I put them together. Last night I actually got them to sleep separately. Then now they've been out for about 20 minutes this morning. So he's extremely dominant, extremely cockerel-like, the little white fella. And this boy, who's only 6 months old, is pretty scared of him, which is, I think, the best way for it to be, rather than have two dominant cockerels. So even though he's 4 times the size of this little fella, he seems to be wary. So whether it's to do with age, aggression level, or whatever, I don't know. I just trimmed the very long claws on the Bantam cockerel, but I've left his spurs, which are very, very long, about 2 inches long, about 4 or 5 centimeters long. I've left them so that he has got a proper defense mechanism if he needs it. So far, we've seen a couple of little flurries, like there, but it's always the Bantam cockerel having a go at the bigger chickens rather than the other way around. So that's fine if that's as bad as it gets. What I wouldn't want, you see how tiny the Bantam hen is, well, and the Bantam cockerel. They would be easily killed by the bigger hens if the bigger hens chose to do that. You can see from the cockerel here that he's got very few tail feathers because his brother used to pick on him all the time before we got rid of his brother. So he's very subservient. He almost had his head completely smashed in when he was young. Massive wounds on his head from his brother. He's never crowed, touch wood, so he may be just a very subservient, perhaps got brain damage or something from being almost killed by his brother when he was younger, I don't know. But he seems to be reasonably good-natured. He's not tried to attack the little cockerel, but the little cockerel has attacked him when he got too close. And you can see he's very wary by going up on the perch there, even though he's hungry, and I've just put food here. So we'll see how things go. So we've got 2 Lane Rhode Island Reds now, which we came in today, and I put them in this cage a little bit, but I've introduced them straight after a couple of hours into the main group of chickens, including the new Bantams. So they've only been here 48 hours, the Bantams. The new Rhode Island Reds have only been here about 6 hours. Seem to be getting okay because the main cockerel, Lucky, the Bantam cockerel, he's pretty strong and they seem to be paying attention, but I've had to separate out Copper, who's in the cage there now, because he was getting very aggressive with these new hens. He hadn't ever crowed before until his brother was taken away, and then 1 day after his brother was taken away, he suddenly starts crowing. So he's asserting himself now. So hopefully I'd like to be able to keep him. We just need to make sure that he's going to not get aggressive with the other hens. Because the big thing about the Bantam cockerel, okay, he's much older, so he's wiser or whatever, but he doesn't, he just tells hens that get too close to back off and then leaves them to it. He doesn't try and do anything bad with them. Whereas probably because Copper is young, you can see Copper's missing tail feathers there. It's because his brother consistently used to attack him. But he's trying to assert himself too much with other hens, so that's why I've had to separate him out. I'll see how it goes over the next day or so. It's a third day of integration, or a second full day of integration. We've still got the two new ex-battery hens sticking very closely together, the pair of bantams sticking very closely together, and then there's two of the old three. The third one is just popped inside the hen house. He's the cockerel. So all seem to be in good spirits, and they're not having a go at each other. A little bit if they get a bit too close as different groups, but it's interesting that they're still very much sticking with their own, but not getting upset with the fact that they're with others. So this is a good result, so fingers crossed it stays like this. What's interesting about the two new Rhode Islands, they don't seem to know how to perch. It seems they were raised in a shed, 50 chickens in a shed with no perches. So at least one of them is laying. We're getting one egg a day, so I don't know if it's the same one laying or not, but lays out in the open in the pen. And last night I had to lift them and put them on a perch inside the hen house. They were just trying to sleep on the ground. So, but they were still in the same place in the morning, so that's good anyway, that they stayed on the perch overnight. But from what I understand, they won't have had access to perches in the hen shed where they were kept before. The two bantams, I haven't seen them perch either. They've been trying to perch, if you like, on the edge of the opening to the hen house. But last night I wanted to keep that hen house shut, so I pushed them inside, and in the morning I found that they were just huddled in the corner. Tonight I'll probably leave the hatch open, so if they want to sleep on the entrance there, then they can.